how's it going? So first of all, I am not naked, so don't worry, I'm dressed. It's late at night right now, so I'm gonna try and talk quietly. Hopefully you'll understand everything I say. But in case you have forgotten, I am Japanese. You see the Japanese flag over there. I'm Japanese, living in Japan. I'm Yoko. This is kind of an awkward introduction, but let me get started. I'm pretty sure that you guys heard the news of Obama getting snubbed. You know, like when he got off the Air Force One, which is the airplane for the President of the United States, there was no staircase nor red carpet. And what's worse, there was a Chinese staff who yelled at the White House staff, like, "Oh, this is our airport, this is China, blah blah," basically saying that the American press people need to leave the place because the Chinese side didn't want the press to get the records of the snub, I guess, or that it was part of the snub, maybe. And not only that, Susan Rice and Ben Rose were blocked to get near President Obama too. And I'm like, how dare you, China? But before I go on, I need to make sure that you guys understand that I am not against like Chinese citizens, you know? I am against the Chinese Communist Party. That has gone a little too far. And so there's a difference when I talk about Chinese people and the political, like communist China. So there's a difference, so please don't misunderstand me on that. But anyway, so yeah, that's a shame for America to be treated that way. And it angers me because, you know, Japan's security consists of the cooperation of the United States, obviously. So communist China insulting the US equals communist China insulting Japan. I'm not sure how many of you realize this, but Japan is now safe because of the deterrent of the United States, especially the nuclear weapons, right? And speaking of which, President Obama has announced the will of no first use of nuclear weapons policy, and our Prime Minister Abe opposed to that, even though we have the past of course, being attacked by nuclear weapons not only once but twice, but we believe in a deterrent. So, and our Prime Minister even spoke to the Admiral Harris, who currently serves as commander of the United States Pacific Command, to tell him so. So what has China have been doing and what has Obama been doing? President Obama basically doesn't want to do anything for the South China Sea issues. Even though he does do the minimum job, but you guys know that he's only interested in golfing. Like he, you know, even when there is a huge flood and people suffering, he loves golfing. I'm not trying to insult your leader, but I'm just saying how it is, and that we can see that too, like from outside of the United States. At G20, it seems that President Obama did talk about, you know, the South China Sea issue a little bit, but usually, like barely, he mentions the problems, and therefore the U.S. Pacific Command is usually taking the risk to be fired to protect the area, as it's kind of opposing to President Obama, who is only into golfing. But I will get back to the South China Sea issues later. So do you guys have any idea of why the snubbing happened? Like maybe you think like America doesn't have the power anymore, or like Obama has no pride, or things like that, which I actually thought of. I read an article earlier of RT.com, and some of the comments were like, every empire comes to an end and USA is nearing its end. Or USA is done, it's finished, or Obama is a loser, or no one respects us anymore, and wait till Donald Trump becomes the president, and so on. And even though I think that those comments do have a point, what I think is that it is kind of about President Obama, yes, but it's not really about President Obama. What I'm trying to say is that it's rather that communist China knows that American superpower is now diminishing, and they think that now is the best chance for communist China to get on the move, to be the superpower of the world, especially during the Obama regime. I just wanted to realize that Communist China is very, very strategic. And you have to realize the ability of Communist China too. Like when you are trapped or when you are being attacked, you have to realize that it's happening, you know what I mean? So in other words, President Obama has been definitely taking the so-called containment policy of his own country, but I see rather as that he didn't really create the situation. Rather, he encouraged or helped Communist China, in my opinion. This will all come back and you will see the whole picture, so be patient and watch the whole video, okay? So as for the snubbing, anyone in charge or anyone involved or any press from any country can notice when there is no staircase nor red carpet, right? President Obama, if he was a true patriot, he should have gotten really angry at China, I think, for using the situation to insult the US, as they are clearly sending a political message. If I was him, I would have said, if China was a mature country with both tradition and growth, such a country wouldn't have expressed their political message this way, or something like that. But he's on the side of China, like he's teaming up with Communist China, as a result at least, and our prime minister or the leaders from other countries should have bashed Communist China together or something. But anyways, the true reason why I think China wanted to snub President Obama was to see how the US reacts. Because that's what they do all the time. I'm their neighbor, I know what they do. And President Obama's reaction was really, really bad. China always does this type of like gradual tests to check things. Like for example, they come into the Japanese territory, right, and check if we fight back or if we don't. And it doesn't matter if it's in the air or if it's in the sea, they always do that. But we don't have the laws or constitution with which we attack first or even to protect us. So we end up letting them realize that we can't do much each time, and they come further and further into our territory. I'll give you an easy example to picture this situation. Let's say that you're a guy and you ask a girl out, right? You go on a date and see how far you can go. Maybe you want to hold her hands, maybe you can't instantly hold her hands, so you start by like kind of touch, I'm kind of brushing, kind of accidentally touch her hand or something and see how she reacts. And if she doesn't seem to care, you go further, right? Hold hands, like grab her hand or something. It kind of hurt because I'm wearing a ring. But so Communist China has been doing that to us like all along, and now I see the pattern against the United States as well. But then there is the question, like, why do they have to do that against the United States, right? But that is because they have the military strategy to build bases and expand their territories so that they can get to the United States. When the president Xi Jinping, I don't know the pronunciation, we call him Xu Jinping, which is so much different from the Chinese, but the leader of the Communist China, when he had a summit with President Obama a few days ago, he brought up the military strategy actually. Did you guys notice, or do you guys get notified about that? What the Chinese leader brought up was the new model of the U.S.-China relations, which he brought up in 2013, I believe, as a new model of great power relations. I can also see the news from 2008. I will link the footage below so you guys can watch it. Some of it is actually in English. But it's the news of Navy Admiral Timothy J. Keating. So it's so real and it's been going on for so long, first appearing in the 80s, I believe. So what is this new model thing? It's the idea of controlling the Pacific Sea by the United States and China. Meaning to divide the Pacific Sea in the middle, and they want, like Communist China wants the US to control from Hawaii to the east and they want to conquer the west from Hawaii. Well, it's the other way around, probably from your direction, but I will show you guys a map so probably you get the idea better. But this is a world map, and this is America. Yay! And we are here in the center because, you know, I live in Japan, of course, so our country is always in the center usually. But this is Japan right here, and China is here. China is actually much smaller, like in actuality, but they oppress many places legally, but I'm not gonna talk about that today. Hawaii is here, right? So they wanna like divide here, and like from here, America, from here, China. That's what they want. So like Australia and all the places around here, it's like they wanna conquer everything, but because they have the dream. Actually, the leader has been talking about the dream. Even the dream, the word dream is something that Chinese leaders are reluctant to use, as it shows like, you know, they're influenced by the Western culture or something when they use the word. But he's been talking about the dream. His dream is to recover the empire of China, which is like, you see this blue line. This is China right now, like what international society thinks, right? But they want to recover like like it's so huge, you know. It's Malaysia is here, and up to here it's like Afghanistan and Kazakhstan and stuff, and Mongolia, even like a little bit like, you know, further to the north. They want to conquer, and they also drew like 3 lines. You see that this is just a handout that I got from the lecture that I attended like a long time ago. But they have drawn a line here. This is the first line, and this is the second line. Japan is here, and yeah. And then the third line is here, and Hawaii is like right here. But what you can notice is that this first line they want to conquer by 2010, this line by 2020, and this third line is what the leader has been talking about for the past few years. He wants to take over up to here, the third line, by 2050. I don't know if you can see, but why 2050 though? I will talk about it later. Before that, I'd like to ask you, do you remember AIIB? Or have you even heard of it? It stands for Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and China basically wants to take over the financially world too. Like, you know, instead of dollars, they want their own money to be used. So now let's get back to the South China Sea issue, shall we? What they're trying to do is to conquer the South China Sea and also up to Hawaii, right? But what comes after that? The battle with the United States. They're on to you guys. Because Communist China wants to be the #1 superpower of the world. Being a Japanese in Japan, I feel so weird to think about this, but you know, it seems like Communist China has been like fighting against Japan a lot of the times, but in actuality, they're fighting against the U.S. or they're preparing for that. Like, you know, I'll give you some examples. Like, China often brings up the historical disputes against Japan because they want to make, they often do that in America actually, because they want to make the American people lose their trust in Japanese people so that they can divide the strong alliance against China that consists of Japan and the United States. Another good example is the territorial dispute. China invades into the Japanese territory and they are trying to steal the Senkaku Islands, and also they are trying so hard to take the power in South China Sea. But it's a military strategy to get to the United States, which I will introduce you in a minute. Also, there's a report by Pentagon named the Annual Report to Congress, Military and Security Developments Involving the People's Republic of China 2016. Kind of long name. This report predicts that China will probably conduct its first nuclear deterrence patrol sometime in 2016. And what this means is that American people in the West Coast are now in danger, because China now has the ability to attack 3 or 4 places like simultaneously. So for instance, they could turn LA, San Francisco, Seattle, and San Diego an inferno, like all at the same time. And also there is the question of Communist China being alone or not in this game. President Putin, let's think of him. President Putin might be a cool leader, you know. I personally want to like him, but it's like he's a politician, you know, and you know, given that he was a trustworthy leader, you never know when the leader changes. And as for Japan, Russia has a history of discarding the Soviet-Japanese neutrality pact all of a sudden, and you know, when they knew that we were getting prepared to surrender during the World War II, and they attacked the disarmed soldiers here and others. And so like, I don't know, like as a Japanese, I can't trust them, you know, and political friends can always betray you. Like, I can't make the sound, but like all of a sudden, and you can never trust anybody, and like unless you have a win-win situation or things in common like enemies, you shouldn't trust anybody. So in this video, I've been talking, and also I've been trying to talk quietly, so I am afraid that you might be feeling a little bored. But now let me show you this book. So this is a Japanese copy of a book titled The 100-Year Marathon, China's Secret Strategy to Replace America as a Global Superpower. Scary, right? Written by Michael Pillsbury. Many of you probably know him, I believe, but in case, I will introduce a bit about him. Michael Pillsbury is a distinguished defense policy advisor, former high-ranking government official, and author of numerous books and reports on China. And as I said, I haven't read it, but I know what it's about and the idea of, you know, what's written, and I highly recommend it even though I haven't read it. Because it talks about why 2049. So they have the strategy of like 100 years of what? Since the country was established. So they have this dream, you know, to do that. Nowadays I see American people talking about ISIS a lot. But I want you to also realize like how atrocious Communist China can be, or how atrocious they actually are right now. The way they torture is really, really cruel. Like, you can't unsee what you see. And you should look up what's been happening to the people of Tibet, Uyghur, and Inner Mongolia. And why do they do that? How they do that? Because I say that there will be always people like, oh, Japan was atrocious too, blah blah blah. Actually, that's propaganda by communists. That's been going on since before the World War II, and that's why America thought that we were the enemy. Alright? But look what happened after the war. I have to make that video specifically to educate people, because I had misunderstood things too. I had thought that, you know, Japan was an atrocious country who massacred people and stuff like that. That's why I hated my country. And that is like all propaganda, and a lot of that actually happened inside of China by the Chinese people and stuff like that. And things are proven academically. I need to make a video on that at one point. But I guess for now maybe I can link useful website below. If I don't forget, check it out. There is a cultural difference, and it's true that Chinese people can be, like, depending on where they are from, they can be kind of aggressive and stuff, or a little more wild. It doesn't mean that they are evil-minded people, but you have to always watch out for the Chinese Communist Party, like the military. And China also has the National Defense Mobilization Law. So not the Chinese people born in the United States, but like Chinese people with the Chinese nationality. You know, those people inside your country can fight against you with an order by the Chinese Communist Party. And it has actually happened inside of Japan when we had Nagano Olympics. I was still in elementary school, so I had no idea, but people gathered. Like, so many Chinese people got together in Nagano Prefecture. And it's really scary. But it can happen to your country as well. So now I hope that you understand why President Obama, who has containment policy, is not willing to contribute to the South China Sea situation. He, in my opinion, is intentionally exposing the United States, I think, because it links with his announcement of no first-use nuclear weapons policy, as now China is on its way to attack the U.S. with nuclear weapons, and simultaneously exposing Japan too. Like, you get it? Like, what I'm trying to say? It's really about the power of the United States and the world order that are in danger. They want to defeat you guys, and they want to take the power of the world. And that's one of the reasons why I want to help Donald Trump from Japan, because he recognizes the threat of China, at least economically. And he does, I have to say that he does misunderstand Japan here and there, but he trusts us enough to bring up the idea of arming us with nuclear weapons. And I know that he's a smart man and he's a professional of making deals. So I am just hoping that, you know, things will work out between us and that I can keep helping him in a way. I don't know how much of a help I can be, but yeah, I hope that this cleared up some things for you. But anyway, so please take care wherever you are, alright? Okay, I guess I will see you guys later.